Welcome to Success Your Own Way, a podcast about how real people define and redefine success throughout their careers. Hosted by Tina Schuricht and Yifat Rogers, this show features candid conversations with guests who've made intentional choices, navigated change, and built lives aligned to their values. Their guests share their stories as well as strategies and tactics that help them along the way. Tina's a certified coach and a former corporate leader who supports professionals in making confident, values-driven decisions. Yifat is a consultant with a background in food science and engineering, helping people solve complex problems with a practical, no-nonsense approach. Each episode offers inspiration and actionable insights for anyone rethinking what success looks like in their life and how to get there.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Success Your Own Way podcast. I'm Tina Schuricht, and I'm joined by Yifat Rogers as well as Angela Dodd. And we're excited to dive in today and learn a little bit more about Angela and her background.
Thank you, Tina. Hi, Angela. We're so excited to have you here with us. For our audience, Angela is a seasoned leader in the business-to-business ingredient sector with 15 years experience, bridging the gap between technical expertise and business strategy. Angela holds a master's in food science as well as an MBA and has spent the past decade helping her clients successfully commercialize food products, leveraging deep industry knowledge to drive innovation and market success. Angela is the founder of Females in Food. She's dedicated to empowering women and organization in the food and beverage industry through leadership development, career advancement, and industry transformation. Females in Food has become the go-to platform for companies seeking to attract, retain, and elevate top female talent, and an organization I'm very happy to be a part of. Angela is based in Minneapolis and enjoys giving back to the industry, championing meaningful change, and spending time with family, friends, and her two boys. Welcome,
Yes,
Angela.
thank you so much. I am so happy to be joined here with you guys today.
Perfect. We are excited to kind of look through your career journey and see how Females in Food came about, hearing more about your career, hearing about how you define success and kind of redefine it along your career. So I'll actually, Tina, let's kick it off with the first question. We'd love to dive into some of the stories you shared with us offline around the moment that changed everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, being in the F&B industry basically since birth. My parents were both in this industry. I've grown up in this industry, love the F&B industry. And, I'd been working for a number of years. And in 2019, I talk a lot about the roots of FIF, and it's many years in the making, right? You see gaps, you see opportunities. I knew I wanted to do something to solve some of the issues that I was seeing. I didn't really know what it was, but in 2018, 2019, I found myself I haven't talked a lot about it, but I found myself in a really kind of unfortunate work situation. It was a situation that had turned a bit toxic, and it was one of those moments that I found myself quite lost. Truthfully, I had moved away from Minneapolis. I didn't have my friend group. I didn't have my family around me. You feel a bit isolated. Things aren't going the best. In the role, it wasn't what you expected. I found that to be my reality and my truth. And I was really fortunate to have a strong group of individuals, colleagues to help pull me out of it, to help say nothing is worth, your mental and physical health. And as I transitioned through that time in my life, and as I came through it and started reflecting back, I'm like, how fortunate was I to have the circle and the support and the resources to be able to transition out and choose myself, choose my own sanity and my own mental health to proceed forward and know that it would be okay. And realizing, that was that was a bit of a luxury to have, and that's not everybody's reality. And so Females in Food, that situation really spurred the birth of Females in Food, and wanting to do more, knowing that I couldn't spend, 15, 20 more years of my career without putting time, energy, and resources into solving some of the gaps that I saw in the industry. And that was, ensuring women had a strong network that they could go to, that understood the realities of our industry, that they also had access to the career development resources to continue to accelerate their own careers, even if their companies didn't have it accessible to them. So that's where FIF started.
Yeah.
And
Kind of a
I'm
long
so
winded,
happy.
kind of a big way to start the show here, but
And I'm so glad you started it. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, that's a great way to kick off. I think your story about being in a toxic environment is unfortunately very relatable. I know for Yifat and I, as well as for our listeners, I think that's unfortunately a really common situation that folks find them in. And it does become deeply personal, just as it did for you. Can you share a little bit more about how founding FIF fit with your evolving definition of success for yourself, both personally and professionally?
yeah, it's a great question. As you continue in your career, I was one of those people. I put a lot of weight in my day, in my career, and my job title, and what I was striving for, the level that I wanted to be at. And I put a lot of weight into that as I was moving through school and up the ladder in my career. And uh, you know founding FIF, it put me into this new pool of being an entrepreneur, right? It was this new pool of challenging yourself and learning things that were completely outside of my realm. And that spurred another fire, another passion. When you have something that you so strongly believe in, that you're also creating yourself, um, and with a team of people, it it very much changes your definition of success. And for me, it was no longer, um, I was no longer necessarily motivated to the degree that I used to be by a performance review. Right now, it was, oh my gosh, what is somebody saying about, like, the clicks, how they navigate through the website, and how the email sequence was set up, right? Those little things of being an entrepreneur and figuring those out, those were the things that I was like taking so deeply personal, on a personal level, because it's like you're building your baby, right? And as I continued through this journey, I also became a mother in the last couple of years, and I think success really shifts when you start incorporating these other aspects of life. And it what matters more, not more or less, but it gets balanced and put into different buckets in different ways than when I was putting 100% of my time and energy into building other people's companies.
Sure.
Yeah, I think when I was considering consulting, I reached out to a mentor, and he said, if you're working for someone, you're always renting. So you're renting your services, and when you start your own business, this is when you own it. And there is a difference between kind of renting your skills versus owning your skills, which really kind of resonated with me. That was almost 10 years ago when I was just kind of starting to think about it, and only 3 years ago it kind of hit. It's not the performance appraisal that needs to guide how I work. It's
Yeah.
what I actually bring, and the value as I bring it, and get the feedback. It's the day-to-day feedback, I think, that's takes over the performance appraisal. Um,
Yeah.
Angela, founding Females in Food must have been a huge learning curve. So we talked a little bit about kind of that experience. What are a couple of big lessons that you've taken from the journey?
Oh goodness, don't go at it alone. I think that's very early on. When you have an idea, it's so often you also want to protect it and insulate it, and let yourself build on it and build it out before bringing a lot of other people in. But in the space of community building or being a founder, it's I don't care what type of business you have, it is one of the loneliest experiences. And for as much as I'm surrounded by a huge community of amazing women. It's different when you're doing the nuts and bolts behind the scenes and kind of navigating that alone, and also just the decision fatigue. It's 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 very difficult. I think those are some of the biggest lessons from. I think earlier on, I would have considered uh, going back. I would have maybe considered a different approach that versus doing a lot of things on my own very early on. Through the years, I have brought on additional team members and invested in different ways to continue to build the community and build the platform. But then, having the vulnerability to bring on a board of advisors, right? That was an extremely vulnerable experience for me as a founder. And since then, it's been interesting as I've gone through that process and opened myself up to that growth, which has been incredible. And just people want to help you, right? I've had other people reach out, other founders saying, how did you do that? How did you make that ask? And realizing so many other founders are struggling with that exact same journey of like, how do you put together a board of advisors? And so that was a big learning for me. And I think even if you're a solopreneur, I think you should still have your board of either there should still be a group of people, whether formal or informal, that you can lean into for your business and who can give you really honest feedback. And it's a very safe spot that, because that's where growth happens, right? Is when you can truly be vulnerable and open up to others. So that's, between not going at it alone, that's probably the biggest one. But the other pieces that were hard to learn is how personal it all feels, right? When you've put so much time, energy, money into something, and you you get hard feedback. You get hard, it's because people don't always see all the work and energy and time that was put into making a choice or building something. And so, I very early on had to have a thick skin to realize if you listen to all the feedback or all the criticism, or you're already hard enough on yourself, then you're not going to continue to be able to grow and help so many more people, right? Because if there was times that I wanted to quit, shut it all down and just say, I'm done. Like, right. But if you don't keep putting one foot in front of the other and just let the bad days kind of melt off your shoulders and learn from them, then you're preventing all the goodness that is still to come and all the people that you can help. And so as a founder, those were some hard lessons early on, right? And even with all the schooling I've had and all the MBA, nobody prepares you for the psychological warfare of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That is yeah, go ahead, Yifat.
It's so hard. And kind of when you were talking about getting feedback, to me, at some point, I realized that I was taking the negative feedback a lot to heart and just not listening at all to any of the positive feedback. So to me, at some point, was the mind shift. It was like, okay, I already have the negative feedback in my head. It's good to hear it from other people and externally to validate some of these things, but don't push away the positive feedback, because I think that is even harder for us to see from inside. So that is also so important. And I know that Females in Food has been kind of like part of the board for me through some of the connections and some of the feedback, positive and opportunities. So that has been a great organization.
I had another founder very early on, and in the very first days that we were both doing different things in different spaces, but we both had. She told me, get your bottles of champagne. We had like 5 of them up on our desk shelves, and we labeled them for when we hit this milestone. We like printed out a label and put them on our champagne bottle. And when we hit each of those milestones, those got popped. And this individual lived in a whole different state, right? And so we would do this virtually through the pandemic, and it was a fun way to like have an accountability buddy of like, okay, we're gonna when we hit that milestone, we get to take that bottle off the shelf and pop it together. So
Love it.
That is so
Love it.
cool. That is
Fun
such a
little-
great idea. I'm marking that one down. Being able to celebrate those successes is so huge, and your ability to recognize the loneliness of both being a leader, I think leader in corporate America as well as a solopreneur. I think those are some of the loneliest positions out
Yes.
there, and your ability to overcome that is so admirable, and congratulations on bringing that board together and recognizing you needed the support and really using it to the best of your ability. I think that's awesome. So you have learned obviously a lot through all of your experiences as a corporate leader, as well as a solopreneur, as a mother. You've got a lot going on in your life. Are there strategies that you would recommend or that you've applied in your life that you think would be useful to share with others to help them apply in their careers?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just from what I've learned, but I've done a lot of listening from people much busier, much smarter, much more advanced, and what they've learned through their career journeys too. One of the other initiatives that within Females in Food, we formalized an executive circle of women. It's a cohort of women within the community with our industry partners who get together and are thought leaders, but also this is a group where they can share candidly and get the peer feedback and support that they need. And one of the things I've learned from them is, setting boundaries, prioritizing time and energy. I know it sounds very cliche, right? Like these are very easy, very easy things in theory, but strong leaders, right? Truly hone those skills very well, and they get very comfortable in saying no. And one of the leaders who I've got to know very well, who is in chapter 3 of her career and her kids are raised, she's like, I unfortunately, like when you say yes over here, there's something else that is getting missed over here. And for her, some of those friendships, the true friendships understood that there was a pause that needed to happen so that you could focus over here, but they pick up where you left off. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces is you find out who those really strong friendships are, because they understand those seasons of life, and that you may not be super present at this moment, but they will continue to grow with you and pick up when you all can. But the other piece is, which I think is really important, is the confidence piece, which I hear every single day from women who at all stages of their career. And one of the biggest things I've learned is, like, if nobody's giving you that seat, if nobody's giving you that stage, you build your own stage. You take your own seat, right? You really need to show up into that room with the confidence in your voice. And something, as a young scientist, I really struggled with this. Being in a room of extremely knowledgeable people, it's like, what question could I ask that would add value to this conversation? And I would literally be shaking to raise my hand. It brought me so much anxiety. And I think that's one thing we got to get a lot more comfortable in as women, is just owning that seat at the table and not having fear in asking those questions, and having more confidence in our own voices earlier on in our career. But then as we progress through, because more responsibilities, more, it all gets scarier as you move up as well, and continuing to have that confidence and executive presence and believing in yourself is so important. And then also, ready is a lie. Like, take that leap.
Yes.
Go after that opportunity, because when you wait, you're going to be waiting forever. You're never going to feel ready enough, and to take that leap even when you feel scared. The wise words of Erica Pierce, who I'll give a shout out here, who shared those words at last year's summit for Females in Food. And so I love her perspective on that. If anybody has a chance to read her book, it's great.
Yeah,
That's
and I
amazing.
joined. I was at the conference. I made myself a little post-it notes from something she said of,
You get scared.
like the ships are safest in the harbor, but
Yes.
that's not what ships are for. Like, it's been almost a year and I'm still hearing her
Yeah.
voice in my head. And it's something that I think I've used with my son, even when he was like, well, I'm scared. It's like, well, but you have to go out there, otherwise you will always be scared. So that is really the only way of kind of moving forward.
Yeah, I love the topics that you shared here, Angela, around the prioritization, being, fiercely guarded with your time, and that a yes over here means a no over there, and that starts all of this process of overcoming your fears. And like, imposter syndrome is real, and it is something that I think that many people experience, especially women. When our bar seems a little higher than it ought to be, our perfectionism starts to come out, and it causes us to pause. And a lot folks who don't have imposter syndrome are willing to dive right in and see what happens and take that risk. And I think holding back is sometimes our worst enemy when it comes to really living our dreams and delivering for others, as you shared, as being a priority for you. So I love all of those strategies. Those are critical for leadership, both in a corporate environment as well as a solopreneur, entrepreneur. So thanks for sharing those. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's been a journey. We learn every day. Some days are easier than others, right?
Yeah,
But continuing
definitely.
forward.
Love it. Thank you, Angela. Before we close, how can people connect with you? How can they learn more about females in food?
Absolutely. Would love for, first of all, everybody to connect with me on LinkedIn, that I'd say is our main platform. Also have Instagram, femalesandfood.community. Also connect with me personally on LinkedIn. That is a great way to just follow along and keep up to date. But our website also has all of our information. If you'd like to join the Females and Food community, you can do so from our website, femalesandfood.community, and also learn more about how we're partnering with organizations to help attract, retain, and advance talent as well. So yeah, look forward to hearing from our listeners and staying in touch.
I'm gonna throw just one curveball. If there is one action that someone, once they hit stop on the podcast, if there is one thing someone can do to help them kind of on their path, what could it be?
Oh, write down your goal.
Write down the goal.
Write it down. Gosh, I wish I knew that stat, but how much more likely we are to accomplish our goal when we write it down. And I'm looking at my calendar on the wall right now, which is a very large, takes up half the wall. But I have, at the end of the year, I have my goal for the year, along with each quarter written down. And I look at that every single day. And I think writing things down are really powerful, but I also think voicing it out loud to somebody else.
Yeah.
When I started mental fitness, right, or mental endurance, when I was training for a marathon, you have a program, right? And you're following it, and you have to be extremely dedicated to it. But I also found a lot of power in telling, in order to accomplish that goal, I had to voice to friends and family, I'm training for this marathon, right? It's easy to like tell somebody something exciting that you're doing, but it's even harder. Let's say you have a weight loss goal, which I've also been through that journey, and being able to tell people, I have this goal and I'd really love for you to support me in it, and helping bring them along in that journey. I think there's so much power in that vulnerability, and that's the same vulnerability we bring into the FIF community of being able to tell people out loud, what are you trying to do, so that we can all use our time and intention in the most meaningful way to help one another move the dial forward. Because success, and I'll put this plug in, success means something different to every single person. And one thing I've really learned along the way is, somebody may just need a door opened or a question answered, and that's going to move the needle for them in their current job, which is going to get them the feedback or progress they need to just advance a little bit further. Not everybody wants to be the CEO, which is great and fine and perfect, but success means something different. It means something different to me 20 years ago than it does now. And but in order to accomplish those goals, I think we need to voice them and write them down and really own them and not be, bashful about it.
Great.
Very true. That accountability partner is huge, right?
It is.
I think that's the only reason Tina and I are actually launching this podcast. I don't know.
True.
And
That
it's
was
so
the
much
strategy.
it's so much more fun to do it together, and then to have that person to celebrate in the back end too.
Of course. Pop that champagne bottle,
Exactly.
right? Hit those
Pop that
milestones.
champagne bottle.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I love it.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Tina. Thanks to our audience for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, share the episode with someone that could benefit from these insights, inspiration, and advice. And stay tuned for our next episode.
Thank you so much. It was so
Thank
great chatting with you all.
Thank you for joining us on Success Your Own Way. We hope you found this episode inspiring and took away actionable insights. Please tune in for our next episode, and if you know someone who is rethinking what success looks like in their life, please share this episode with them.